the way we present ourselves with a digital factory that you can walk through and quite innovative with VR. The way we work with clients solving these things, I think you didn't see that 3 years ago.
Hello, my name is Robert Schmidt, also known as Mr. IoT. Welcome to Coffee with Mr. IoT. Today with Vincent Rutgers, our global leader for industrial products and construction. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, really excited for a second day. Yesterday was a really good day for us. It was a really nice show. Good speakers at the conference. I think Deloitte really packed out here with some tremendous speakers impressing the audience. Our booth here is tremendous. I think the team has done a great job. I think putting Deloitte really in the spotlight. There's a lot of activity, a lot of clients coming through our stand. And yeah, that summarizes the day. Oh, I forgot to mention we had a great dinner last night with quite some clients coming there. All, of course, very interested in understanding what we can do with IoT Industry 4 and how we can help them. So it was a great day yesterday. Looking forward to even a better day today.
And by the way, just to mention that we are at the IoT Solutions World Congress in Barcelona, and that's the second day we're at today. So yesterday we started off, and yeah, we had a lot of great people. So Vincent, global leader for industrial products and construction.
Yeah,
Tell us about it. What do you do?
Quite an important industry sector for Deloitte. We focus on all those companies that make things in the industrial space, ranging from aerospace and defense companies to heavy machinery companies and large conglomerates, to also quite a lot of smaller companies that make things. It tends to be that companies that make things are smaller companies, and yeah, there's a lot of those here. As a major trend for the industry is the whole transitioning to smart manufacturing. IoT, Industry 4, you can name it different ways, but it's the impact that the data and automation has on actually making things more efficient, faster, cheaper, but also more innovative.
You really like when stuff is made, right? We talked about this before. You sort of like have a real affinity for real things that get made that you can touch, right?
Yes, of course. I love factories. I graduated in that coming out of a university, but it was. I think a factory is always nice. Whether it doesn't matter what they make. So I'm really happy to be in this role and having this opportunity. I always,
you actually started at one of those clients your whole career, right?
Yeah, I worked with Philips. I'm next to my role in the industry. I'm global LCSP for Philips. And yeah,
that means the lead consulting client service partner,
right? Lead client.
So any work we do at Philips, at the end, people come to you for all the good and the bad.
Hopefully, yeah. I try to be involved in all of that. But yeah, Philips is for me, a great client to work with. I often meet up with Philips, and when I introduce myself, I can always refer to the fact that I have been there almost since I was born. Which always is a good starter for a conversation. My parents worked for Philips. My mother was pregnant with me when she was working there, so that's when my first day at Philips started. And then
does that make you the longest Philips employee? Not quite yet.
Not quite yet, but so they have a lot of older people there as well. But no, I worked there also during my high school years. So it's a summer job. And then, when I didn't start at Philips, but quickly transitioned to working for Philips. And so it has been a red line through my career. And of course, it's amazing to now be serving Philips as a partner, and working with them. I understand the organization quite well and where they come from. There's still some people working there that I've worked with a long time ago, and it's a company that is always there's always happening something somewhere, and for us as Deloitte, that creates a lot of opportunities. So it's an important client for us.
Tell me, how do you wander your path from interning, summer jobs at Philips, working at Philips, being on the factory line to Deloitte? What's sort of the path that you went along that?
I think it's it's not. It always sounds great if you say, "Oh, this is all planned for." The things always happens the way they happen, right? And I noticed working for manufacturing companies where I started in, and working for companies where you make a career within the company, that I was always looking and searching for changes and new things to do. After a year in the same role, I was already looking for the next thing. And until the point that I realized that in consulting you have that variety and you have that those changes and the opportunity to be working a lot abroad, because that's always been my passion. So I switched to a consulting firm, not to Deloitte right away. In those days, Deloitte was not the place to go in consulting. But I've learned, I've worked in other companies, learned a lot from consulting, traveled around the world a lot, working mostly in telecommunication clients, until I switched to Deloitte about 7 years ago. And this has been a tremendous place. It's a great organization to work with. The culture is nice, people are nice to work with. But what strikes me most is there's so much energy in this company, positive energy. We're growing everywhere. We're inventing new things. There's a lot of drive for new innovations and new things. Deloitte Digital is one of those. But there's so many activities that every day you can challenge yourself into learning new things. And I think that's always been the most important part of being a consultant is that I always feel like I'm surrounded by people who know a lot more than I do, and that always drives you to try to learn more. And that's never boring.
So I can relate to new things. I can relate to doing new things. What's one new thing that comes to mind when you think that we've just done the last few years, or even here?
There's I think the whole way we are working with IoT and Industry 4 is something that we did not really have high on the radar only a few years ago. From the Deloitte Digital and the way we interact with clients around digital transformation, we move in this space as well. And if you look at how we are present here, with what we do in IoT and Industry 4, the way we present ourselves with a digital factory that you can walk through and quite innovative with VR, the way we work with clients solving these things, I think that's you didn't see that 3 years ago. Another interesting thing.
Have you had a chance to look at the comic book yet? Have you met Dub Dub?
I've met Dub Dub. I saw him last year as well.
It's a she, actually.
Sorry. Couldn't pick that up from the name.
Yeah, you can't. It's true.
But it is. I think I love that part about Deloitte. I 7 years ago I was lucky to lead Deloitte Digital in the Netherlands to start it off, and until I got way too busy combining that with my other role, so I passed it on to someone else. But it was fascinating to start Deloitte Digital in a company that was basically run by blue suits and ties, trying to get creative people in. And I've been, yes, look at and the fact that you can wear that now, it's very normal now in the world. But I remember when we started this that we had to interview people in pubs because they did not want to be seen in an office building. And one of the first questions people would ask is, do I now have to wear a suit and a tie? And all of these things that were auditors that thought it was weird to have people walking around without a tie. All that stuff we quickly resolved and moved forward on that. And nowadays it's very normal that you have a meeting with someone with a tie and someone with flip-flops. And that is, I think, is what is great about Deloitte, that we are very adaptable, and it's all about the people and less about the show around that. And I think I love being in Deloitte and working with the people in Deloitte.
Do you actually know that Dub Dub, there is socks with Dub Dub on it too?
No, but I should get those then.
I have them. I can't give you mine, but I have my Dub Dub socks on.
Right.
Anyhow, it's extremely interesting, right? The diversity thing is one of the reasons why I think I'm at Deloitte for the second time.
Right.
The first time when I joined Deloitte, I left actually another consulting firm because I felt that I was Austrian. I am Austrian, and I came to the States, and all the partners around me were all American. And I felt like that's not going to be the place for me to make my career. And at Deloitte, I interviewed with people that were from 3 different continents. So I feel like Deloitte really lives that diversity thing to the point where we want the diversity, and I really respect that. And that's one of the things I love about it. And wearing colorful shirts is just one aspect.
No, it's true.
But, yeah.
What I see also in Deloitte, I travel a lot in my both my roles, and anywhere you come, you feel the same energy, and you meet the same people with the same passion. So I was in Australia 2 weeks ago. Going to be in India, in Singapore in the coming weeks. It's fun to see how this is actually not something that's unique for Spain or for Germany. This is a global thing, and that's how I've always seen my role as well, and that what I like to do. I live in the Netherlands, which is a convenient place to live. It's fairly central and has good infrastructure. I live almost on the border with Germany, but in my work, I'm every month in the US, and I very regularly in Asia, and it's that's the fun part. Learning from other people, learning from how other people do things, which is not the same everywhere, and luckily, and not everyone does it the same way, and that always enriches you.
So you have this unique opportunity in your role to look at the work we do in our clients globally. Can you highlight some of the differences that you see today, particularly in smart factory, in industry, in a variety of different places of the world?
Well, I think there is still there's never you can say that there's clients that are the same. Large conglomerates often are stuck with too many rules and history. Smaller companies are sometimes too fast and forget things. But it is it's quite the diversity of companies is of course what makes it interesting. When you look at Industry 4 and Smart Factory, and the way companies are dealing with that differs a lot. I mean, there's a lot of companies that are trying things, that try doing some things with robotics, companies that look in AI, but not many of them have a real plan of where that should lead to. Right? And I think as Deloitte, there is a big opportunity for us to help clients on that path, whether you call it a digital roadmap or, but it is companies. I think not only struggle with that, it's also, if I look at all these technologies and the way they change so quickly, it's very hard to figure out, what does AI do next year, right? Or what does robotics do next year, and how does the combination of those two, really going to affect my factories next year? And that is, I think, where not that we have the answer, but we can actually make the process more useful for clients. I think, and it struck me also here at the event that the human part becomes more important as well. There was a good keynote speaker yesterday morning, a Spanish official, who was pointing at the social implications of advanced manufacturing and smart and robotics and IoT. What that means for people's career and for their lives. And I think that is an area where we may not have thought enough about, but also creates a huge opportunity for Deloitte. Every company you meet in this space is talking about, I need the right people for that. I need to find the talent that can help me make that transition. Everyone's looking for the same talent, right? It's not a large pool. It's not as big as it used to be. It all used to be always that you had a process and a system, and you could find the people to work on that. Nowadays, people are the bottleneck, and that creates a whole different way of thinking. The opportunities we have as Deloitte, as we have a strong capability around the whole human capital side, is how do you deal with that challenge of getting the right talent, and more so, what do you do with your existing workforce? And because you can retrain and reskill people, but you cannot do that with everyone. But you still need to make sure that you keep people on board, because you cannot just send everyone home because you bought some new robots. That will very quickly turn into a lot of social issues that you don't want to have as a company. So I think that was good that it came up here. I've seen more people now talk about it, and I think as Deloitte we should emphasize that even more. The whole change management of companies, of transitioning towards smart factory, and what that means for people, and how we can help with that.
You used the word that triggered a thought in me. You said the right people. I get asked this a lot by young people that start university. They say, what shall I study? What shall I really work on? Let me ask you, what do you tell the young people that just come out of high school? What should they study? What do you recommend they do?
Yeah, well, that's a challenging one. I think for a lot of
You
young
have kids?
I have two sons, and they're 20 and 25.
What do they do?
And my oldest son is working for
For Philips. How did I not guess that?
Yeah, he's finalizing a study on international health management and biopharmacy. So a bit of the area that is, I think, quite important in and creates a lot of opportunities going forward. But also there you see, of course, all of the aspects of smart manufacturing coming back there as well. AI, robotics, all of that is very important in healthcare. Connected healthcare and things like that will be even more important. So I think that what I've always told him is to get a broad education, a broad insight as well, and try to learn about innovation and change, because when they start studies like that, probably 80% of what you learn is not what you're going to use after you finish, and the job that you're going to start with does not exist when you start your study. And I think that's probably for a lot of people that now are going to university, that you don't know what you're going to do after you're finished, because things are changing that quickly, and that is different from older generations where I fit in. That you go to the university and you know pretty much what you'll be doing after that, right? With some narrow bandwidth. But nowadays it's fake. My youngest son is probably more struggling with that, because the options are so huge that it's very hard to choose what you'd like to do. And that, I think the best way you can tackle that is broad education.
So you'd suggest go broad rather than going vertical.
Yeah, well, that depends on the character of the student. Some people are made to go really deep, and some of them are much better, going broad. But I think, I think it is not easy. It's not easy to think about that. And I think the challenge lies also in the fact that you start a study now. It's much more narrow because there's so many options now compared to, say, 20 years ago. But it's also, you can already find out online, what people are doing with that study. And if you come across people in jobs that you think, well, I know, hell no, then you skip that study, which is not always a good thing.
One of the things that occurred to me was I have a master's in petroleum engineering, and I never went into the field.
Right.
But one of the things that was part of that was a lot of math,
Right.
and a lot of detailed math. And when I joined business, I always said the most complicated math you'll ever do is percentage calculations,
Right.
because pretty much everything else is plus minus. And I think that's changed. I think with data science and what we need to do, math has become way, way more important. You agree with that?
Yeah, no, I think, but all these fundamental things like math, languages as well, are always coming back. Economics, even manufacturing. Even look at myself. I graduated in manufacturing. In university had a lot of boring classes that I thought I'm never gonna do something with this, and here I am, right? And I have to talk about the stuff.
Tell me one of those boring classes that you used today. I'm really curious now.
Well, there was a whole bunch of stuff around electronics and mechanics, and
It's come back hardware, hasn't it?
Robot technology.
Yeah.
Actually did that as well. Programming robots in the early days of the ASEA robots, and we programmed those. It's handy nowadays when you know what the complexity of having robots going in three dimensions. And
I actually saw the little quadcopters in my spare time. and I fly them first-person view. So I've spent more time soldering the last couple of years than I've spent many years before. So I can relate to electronics. So let's just switch topics for a second. You talked about your role as the global leader. You talked about your upbringing. Your role at Philips. You have this awesome story how pretty much your whole day is Philips. Why don't we close with that, because it's such a great story how your client and your personal life intertwine.
Well, that's the thing. Philips is a unique client for me, and I often get asked by Deloitte colleagues about, how does it look like a day as a client lead, with your client, and I always tell them my day is filled with Philips from the moment I get up, because I have a client that's all over my house. So I wake up with my Philips alarm clock, I turn on my Philips light next to my bed, then I walk to the bathroom, brush my teeth with a Philips toothbrush, have my Philips shaver, make my Philips coffee make some nice coffee, and everything else that I have around the house that is from Philips. And the rest of the day I'm working on Philips. And the end of the day it's the other way around. So basically I go to bed with Philips and I wake up with it.
That's a great story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Anything I didn't ask you that you want to share?
No. I think thanks for all that, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about that. And hopefully you get more speakers today talking about how great this IoT event is, because we as Deloitte, I think we impress people with our presence here, and especially the energy we bring across in this booth. I think that's tremendous. So thank you.
Thanks so much. And with that, this is the end of another Coffee with Mr. IoT. Thank you for watching. If you missed any of today's show or previous shows, please check out our playlist on YouTube. Search for Coffee with Mr. IoT. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.